The night was quiet, yet her heart was screaming inside. She walked out of the cafe, her footsteps slow, her eyes burning with tears. People passed by, laughing, chatting, holding hands, but to her, the world had turned cold and empty. Her name was Aria, a girl who believed in love more than anything else. For months, she had trusted him. For months, she had dreamed of a future together. And now, in one single moment, everything was broken. Inside that cafe, she had seen him, the man she loved, smiling with another girl. Their hands touched across the table, their laughter too sweet, too close. And when Aria stepped closer, he did not even look guilty. He simply looked annoyed, as if she was the problem. "Why are you here, Aria?" he had said coldly. "Can't you see I've moved on?" Those words stabbed her deeper than any knife. She had stood frozen, her throat too tight to speak, as the other girl leaned against him proudly. Aria's chest tightened. She had been replaced, so easily, so quickly. Now, walking down the street, her mind was spinning. She wanted to cry, but the tears refused to fall. She wanted to scream, but her voice was gone. Her heart was not just broken, it was burning with rage. How could he betray me? How could he play with my love? She stopped near a streetlight, breathing hard. The city lights glowed around her, but she felt like she was trapped in darkness. People hurried by, busy with their own lives, not noticing the storm inside her. For a moment, she thought about going home, hiding under the blanket, and letting the pain consume her. But then another voice rose in her mind. A stronger voice. No. He does not deserve my tears. He deserves to regret losing me. Her hands clenched into fists. She remembered the way he had looked at her, as if she was worthless, as if her love meant nothing. That memory filled her with fire. Aria whispered under her breath, "I will not let him win. I will make him regret this." But how? She was just an ordinary girl, fragile and heartbroken. What could she possibly do? Then, an idea flashed in her mind, sudden, wild, and reckless. She had never done anything like it before, but in that moment, she didn't care. If he can throw me away so easily, she thought, then I can show him I don't need him. I can show him I have the power to hurt too. Her lips trembled, not from fear but from determination. A dangerous idea had taken root in her heart, a revenge kiss. She would kiss a stranger. Not out of love, not out of desire, but out of pain. She would do it to prove to herself that she was not weak, that she could play with hearts too. And maybe, just maybe, if her ex ever found out, he would feel the sting of jealousy. Her eyes scanned the street, searching. People came and went, businessmen in suits, students laughing in groups, tired workers rushing home. None of them felt right. None of them carried the presence she was looking for. And then, she saw him. A man stood at the far corner of the street, half hidden under the shadows of a tall building. He was tall, his shoulders broad, his posture calm but commanding. His face was partly covered by the dim light, but even from a distance, Aria could feel something strange about him. He wasn't like the others. He didn't move with the crowd. He didn't look hurried. He stood still, as if the world around him did not matter. Her heart thumped. Fear and curiosity battled inside her chest. She had no idea who he was. He could be dangerous. He could be completely ordinary. But something about him pulled her closer. Aria wiped her tears, lifted her chin, and took a deep breath. "I can do this," she whispered. "I have to do this." Step by step, she walked toward him. Each step felt heavier, yet her anger pushed her forward. Her ex's cold words echoed in her ears, fueling her courage. The stranger looked up as she approached, his eyes catching hers for the first time. His gaze was sharp, unreadable, almost too intense. For a moment, her legs wanted to stop. For a moment, she almost turned back. But the fire in her heart was stronger than her fear. Without giving herself time to think, she reached out, grabbed his collar, and pressed her lips against his. It was quick, wild, and filled with all the pain she carried inside. A kiss born not from love, but from heartbreak and revenge. The world around her seemed to pause. The sound of traffic faded, the movement of people blurred, and all that existed was that moment, her lips on a stranger's. When she finally pulled back, breathless, her heart pounded like a drum. She expected him to be shocked, maybe even push her away. But he didn't. He simply looked at her, his eyes dark and calm, as if he had seen through her soul. And then, in a deep, steady voice, he said words that froze her in place. "Do you know what you just did?" Arya's breath caught in her throat. Her anger began to fade, replaced by something far more dangerous, fear. Because in that one moment, she realized the truth. This stranger was not ordinary. Arya froze where she stood, her fingers still trembling from the bold move she had just made. The man's voice echoed in her ears. "Do you know what you just did?" His tone was not angry, not surprised, but heavy. Heavy in a way that made her heart skip. For a second, she thought about running away, pretending it was all a mistake. But her pride stopped her. She lifted her chin, forcing her voice to sound strong, even though it shook inside. "I don't care," she whispered. "It was just a kiss. Nothing more." The stranger's eyes narrowed. They were sharp, like steel, but there was also something unreadable in them, something that made her uneasy. "Nothing more," he repeated slowly, almost as if testing her words. Arya crossed her arms, trying to hide her shaking hands. "Yes. I kissed you because I wanted to. That's all." The man studied her silently. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The world around them kept rushing, cars passing, people walking, but in that corner, it felt like time had stopped. Finally, he gave a faint smirk, though his eyes did not soften. "You're brave. Or foolish." Arya felt a shiver run down her spine. Brave. Foolish. She wasn't sure herself. She tried to walk away, to escape his intense stare, but his voice stopped her again. "Wait." She turned, annoyed yet curious. "What now?" He stepped closer, his tall figure casting a shadow over her. "Do you always kiss strangers on the street?" Her cheeks burned, but she forced herself not to look weak. "No. Just tonight. Just you." The words slipped out too quickly. Her heart thudded in her chest. Why did she say it like that? The stranger tilted his head, almost amused. "And why me?" Arya swallowed hard. She couldn't tell him the truth, that she had been heartbroken and wanted revenge. That she had wanted to prove to herself she wasn't weak. No, she couldn't let him see her pain. So she lied. "Because you looked like someone who wouldn't care." The smirk on his lips widened slightly. "You think I don't care?" "Yes," she said firmly, though her voice betrayed a hint of doubt. The man leaned down, his face only inches from hers. His eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. His presence was overwhelming, as if the air around him belonged to him alone. "Careful," he said softly. "You don't know who I am." Arya's heartbeat quickened. His words carried a weight she didn't understand. Who was he really? Before she could reply, a sound broke the moment. A group of men walked out of a nearby building, dressed in dark suits. They stopped suddenly when they saw him. Their faces turned pale. Without a word, they bowed their heads slightly, showing respect, or was it fear? Arya noticed it instantly. Her eyes widened. Who bows to a stranger in the middle of the street? The men glanced at her, confusion flashing in their eyes. One of them whispered, "Did she?" The stranger raised a hand, and they immediately fell silent. None dared to speak further. Arya's breath caught. Something was not right. This wasn't just any man. He wasn't ordinary at all. She turned to leave, panic rising in her chest. But again, his voice stopped her. "Running away already." Her feet froze. Slowly, she faced him again. His calm expression hadn't changed, but his eyes burned with something powerful. "You kissed me," he said quietly. "And now you can't just walk away." Arya's chest tightened. What did he mean? Why couldn't she? It was supposed to be a meaningless act, just revenge for her broken heart. Nothing more. But the way he looked at her made her feel trapped, as if her small act had tied her to something much bigger than she could handle. "I don't owe you anything," she snapped, trying to sound bold. "It was just one kiss. Forget it." The stranger chuckled softly, but there was no humor in it. "Forget it?" I don't forget so easily. The group of men in suits still lingered nearby, watching silently. The tension grew heavier, pressing against her chest. Arya's hands curled into fists. She wanted to scream, to tell him she wasn't afraid. But deep down, fear had already planted itself in her heart. The stranger finally stepped back, his gaze never leaving her. Go, he said simply. She blinked, unsure if she heard correctly. I said go, he repeated, his voice calm but final. But remember this, you've crossed a line tonight. And once a line is crossed, there is no turning back. Arya didn't wait another second. She turned and walked quickly down the street, her legs weak, her mind racing. Every step away from him felt heavy. His words echoed in her head. Do you know what you just did? You've crossed a line. Her plan had been simple, a kiss for revenge, a kiss to forget her pain. But now, she realized she had stepped into something far more dangerous. Something about him was different. Something about him was powerful. And deep inside, she knew the truth. That kiss was not the end of her heartbreak. It was the beginning of a story she never expected. That night, Arya barely slept. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying the same scene again and again. The kiss. The stranger's eyes. His voice saying, "You've crossed a line." She pressed her palms against her face, groaning. What had she done? It was supposed to be simple, a quick act of revenge. A kiss to forget her pain. A kiss to prove she was strong. But instead, it had opened a door she couldn't close. Arya tried to convince herself it didn't matter. He was just a man. A stranger. She would never see him again. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow she would forget. But deep down, she knew she was lying to herself. The next day, she forced herself to go to work. Her eyes were tired, her heart heavy, but she painted on a fake smile. She couldn't let anyone know what she had done. During lunch break, she sat alone on a bench outside her office, scrolling through her phone. But then, something strange caught her eye. A black car was parked across the street. Its windows were dark, impossible to see inside. But she felt it, someone was watching her. Her stomach twisted. She tried to ignore it. It's just a coincidence, she told herself. But when she stood up to leave, the car's engine started. Slowly, it followed her down the street. Arya's steps quickened. Her palms grew sweaty. Every turn she took, the car followed. Finally, she spun around, her voice trembling. Stop following me. The car halted. For a moment, silence filled the street. Then, the back door opened, and he stepped out. The stranger. Her heart jumped into her throat. She froze where she stood, torn between running and confronting him. He walked toward her, calm, unhurried, his eyes locked on hers. Even in broad daylight, his presence was overwhelming. You, she whispered. Me, he said simply. Arya's anger flared, covering her fear. What do you want from me? Why are you following me? He stopped just a few steps away, his gaze unreadable. You kissed me. Her jaw clenched. I told you it meant nothing. He tilted his head slightly, almost amused. Then why are you so afraid? She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her heart was pounding too loudly. The stranger glanced around. People were watching now, curious. He leaned closer, his voice low but sharp. This is not the place. Come with me. Arya shook her head. No. I don't even know who you are. For the first time, his eyes softened, but only for a moment. Then his expression turned cold again. That's exactly the problem. You don't know who I am. Against her better judgment, she found herself inside the car with him. The ride was silent, heavy with tension. Arya sat stiffly, her hands clutching her bag, ready to run if needed. Finally, the car stopped in front of a tall, glass building, the kind of place only the rich could afford. The guards at the entrance bowed slightly as the stranger walked past them. Arya's eyes widened. This wasn't normal respect. This was fear. He led her inside, up to a private office high above the city. The room was large, filled with expensive furniture, but it felt empty, cold. Sit, he said. Arya hesitated, then sat on the edge of a leather chair. Now will you tell me who you are? He stood by the window, his back to her, hands in his pockets. The city lights reflected off the glass, surrounding him like a crown. My name doesn't matter, he said finally. What matters is that people know me. People fear me. And now, he turned, his eyes piercing into hers. People saw you with me. Her throat tightened. What does that mean? It means, he said slowly, you are no longer invisible. From the moment you kissed me, you stepped into my world. And in my world, nothing is simple. Arya's head spun. She shook her head, refusing to believe it. No. This is crazy. I don't want your world. I don't want any of this. He walked closer, his presence swallowing the space between them. It doesn't matter what you want. Choices have consequences. And you made a choice that night. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she blinked them back. All I wanted was to forget my pain. To take revenge. That's it. I didn't ask for this. The stranger's gaze softened again, just for a second, as if he understood. But it disappeared quickly. You should be careful what you ask for, he said. Because sometimes, fate listens. That night, as Arya walked back to her small apartment, her mind was a storm. His words echoed inside her, from the moment you kissed me, you stepped into my world. She didn't understand who he truly was. A businessman. A criminal. A king in disguise. All she knew was one thing, her life was no longer hers alone. And the secret he carried was only beginning to unfold. Arya's days no longer felt normal. Ever since that night, her heart carried a strange weight, the stranger's presence. She tried to continue her routine. Work, home, sleep. But no matter where she went, she felt his shadow. The black car would appear on distant streets. His figure would flash briefly in crowds. Sometimes she would turn around and catch him watching her, calm and steady, as if making sure she couldn't forget. At first, she was angry. Why is he following me? Why won't he leave me alone? She whispered to herself. But slowly, the anger began to mix with something else, confusion. Because whenever he appeared, something inside her shifted. Her fear was real, yes. Yet beneath the fear, there was also a strange comfort. She was never truly alone anymore. One evening, rain poured down heavily, soaking the streets. Arya left work late, her umbrella broken by the wind. She hurried toward the bus stop, her clothes drenched, her hair sticking to her face. The bus didn't come. People had already left, leaving her alone in the storm. Shivering, she wrapped her arms around herself. Suddenly, headlights cut through the rain. A familiar black car stopped in front of her. Her heart skipped. She already knew who it was. The back door opened. His voice called out firmly, "Get in." Arya hesitated. She wanted to refuse, to prove she wasn't weak. But the rain was merciless, and she was freezing. With a sigh, she slipped inside. Warmth surrounded her instantly. The smell of leather and cologne filled the car. He sat across from her, his sharp eyes studying her silently. "You'll get sick," he said at last. "I didn't ask you to care," she muttered, hugging herself. He didn't reply. Instead, he handed her his jacket. Arya stared at it, shocked. "What is this?" "A jacket," he answered simply. She frowned. "Why are you being nice to me?" His lips curved into a faint smirk. "Maybe I'm not." But his eyes told a different story, softer, gentler than she had ever seen. She took the jacket reluctantly, wrapping it around her shoulders. Warmth spread through her, not just from the fabric but from something deeper. Days passed, and their encounters grew more frequent. Sometimes he appeared when she was in danger, like the night a drunk man tried to grab her arm outside the station. Before she could scream, the stranger stepped forward, his mere presence enough to send the man running. Other times, he appeared when she least expected, like outside the small bakery she visited, quietly paying for her bread before she even reached the counter. Arya told herself she hated it. She told herself she didn't need his protection, his money, or his attention. But her heart betrayed her. She began to notice the little things. The way his eyes softened only when looking at her. The way his voice lowered when he spoke her name. The way he listened, really listened, when she spoke about her pain. One night, they sat together on a quiet rooftop. The city lights sparkled below, but the world felt distant. "Why me?" Arya asked suddenly. "There are so many people in this city. Why are you, watching me, helping me?" He leaned back, his gaze fixed on the stars. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then finally, in a voice softer than she had ever heard, he replied, "Because you are different." Arya frowned. "Different? How?" He turned his head, meeting her eyes. "When you kissed me that night, you weren't seeking love. You weren't playing games. You were drowning in pain, yet you still had fire in your eyes. Most people break when they're betrayed. But you refused to break." Her chest tightened. She didn't know how to respond. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You remind me of someone I once knew." Arya swallowed, her heart beating faster. "Who?" But he only gave a small, sad smile and looked away. "That's a story for another time." Silence filled the rooftop, but it wasn't uncomfortable. For the first time, Arya realized she wasn't afraid of him anymore. There was mystery in his eyes, yes. Danger in his world, yes. But beneath all that, there was also something fragile, something human. She found herself asking, almost against her will, "Are you really as dangerous as people say?" He chuckled softly. "Maybe more." She should have felt fear. She should have walked away. But instead, she smiled faintly. And for a brief moment, under the city lights, the heartbroken girl and the mysterious stranger shared something neither of them expected, a bond. But bonds can be dangerous. Because in his world, nothing was ever safe. And Arya was about to learn that the closer she got to him, the more enemies she would face. Arya's life had already changed in ways she couldn't understand. The stranger had become a shadow she couldn't escape, and strangely, she no longer wanted to. He was dangerous. She knew that. But when he was near, she felt protected. She felt seen. And after being betrayed and thrown away, that feeling was like a lifeline. But safety never lasted long in his world. One evening, Arya left her office late. The streets were quiet, the air heavy with silence. She wrapped his jacket around her tightly, remembering the warmth it carried. As she turned into a narrow alley, a group of men stepped out from the shadows. Their eyes glinted with mischief, their smirks sharp. "Well, look who we have here," one sneered. "The little girlfriend of the boss." Arya froze. Her heart raced. "Boss? What did they mean?" Another man chuckled. "We saw you with him. You think you're special now? You think you're untouchable?" Fear shot through her chest. She took a step back, shaking her head. "I don't know what you're talking about." But they closed in, surrounding her. One reached out, grabbing her wrist. "Don't lie. Everyone knows he protects you. That makes you a target." Her knees went weak. She tried to pull free, but his grip tightened painfully. For a moment, she thought this was the end. Then a cold, familiar voice cut through the night. "Let her go." The men stiffened. Slowly, they turned. The stranger stood at the mouth of the alley, his tall figure like a shadow in the darkness. His eyes burned with quiet rage. Arya's chest loosened with relief, but fear still gripped her. The man holding her laughed nervously. "So it's true. You do care about her." The stranger stepped closer, his presence alone making the men retreat slightly. His voice was calm, but deadly. "Touch her again, and you won't live to regret it." The man released Arya instantly, stumbling backward. Within seconds, the group scattered, disappearing into the night like rats. Arya sank to the ground, her body trembling. She clutched her wrist where the man had held her, her breathing uneven. The stranger knelt beside her. His face was unreadable, but his hands were gentle as he checked her wrist. "Did they hurt you?" Tears slipped down her cheeks. Why are they after me?" He didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened, his eyes dark. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "Because you're with me." Her heart sank. "But I'm not. I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose this. He looked at her then, his gaze sharp but also filled with something softer. The moment you kissed me, Arya, you chose me. And whether you like it or not, that choice comes with danger. Her breath caught. His words were terrifying, yet there was truth in them. She whispered, "Who are you really?" He stood slowly, offering his hand to help her up. His eyes locked on hers, unflinching. "I am someone people fear. Someone who has enemies everywhere. And now," he paused, his voice almost regretful, "those enemies will see you as my weakness." Arya's knees wobbled. Weakness? Yes. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "Because no matter how dangerous I am, I will not let anyone hurt you." Her chest tightened. 1,000 emotions rushed through her, fear, confusion, warmth. But before she could speak, his phone buzzed sharply. He answered, his voice turning cold. "What is it?" Arya watched his expression shift as he listened. His jaw clenched, his eyes narrowing. Finally, he hung up, slipping the phone back into his pocket. "What happened?" she asked nervously. He looked at her, his face grave. "It's your ex." Her blood ran cold. "What about him?" The stranger's voice was sharp. "He hired those men. He thinks you embarrassed him, and he wants you out of the way." Arya's stomach twisted. Memories of her ex's cold smile in the cafe flashed in her mind. She had hated him for breaking her heart, but she never imagined he would stoop this low. Her knees gave out, but the stranger caught her before she could fall. His arms were firm, protective. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "From this moment on, you can't walk alone. You're part of my world now, whether you like it or not. And in my world, betrayal is punished." Arya's heart pounded. Part of her wanted to run, to escape before it was too late. But another part of her, the part that had seen his eyes soften and his hand shield her, couldn't walk away. She whispered, almost against her will, "What are you going to do to him?" The stranger's lips curved into a cold smile, one that sent chills down her spine. "Don't worry about that. Just stay close to me. I'll handle him." For the first time, Arya saw the full truth. The man she had kissed wasn't just mysterious. He was powerful, dangerous. And now, she was tied to him in ways she could never undo. That night, as she lay in bed, she couldn't sleep. Every shadow outside her window felt like a threat. Every sound in the street made her flinch. But the image that haunted her most was his face. The way he had looked at her, not just with danger, but with a strange protectiveness. And his words echoed in her ears. "From the moment you kissed me, you stepped into my world." The days that followed felt like a blur. Arya was no longer the invisible girl she once was. Every step she took, every place she visited, eyes followed her. Not her friends. Not strangers. But his world. A world filled with shadows, enemies, and secrets. And in that world, Arya was no longer safe. One evening, as she returned home, the stranger was already waiting at her door. His car was parked by the curb, guards standing silently nearby. "You can't stay here anymore," he said firmly. Arya frowned. "Why not?" "Your ex has gone too far. He isn't working alone. He's joined hands with people who want me destroyed. And they will use you to do it." Her blood ran cold. "So what are you saying? That I should just leave everything? My home, my life?" "Yes." His voice was sharp, but his eyes revealed something else, worry. Arya looked around at her tiny apartment, her safe corner of the world. It wasn't much, but it was hers. And now, even that was slipping away. She whispered, "I never asked for this. I just wanted my pain to stop." He stepped closer, his voice low but steady. "And I never asked for you. But here you are. And whether you believe it or not, I will not let them hurt you." Arya's heart trembled. She hated his control, his secrets, yet there was something in his eyes that she couldn't ignore. Something raw. Something real. The following night, everything came crashing down. Arya was taken. It happened so fast she barely had time to scream. A van pulled up as she walked home from work. Rough hands dragged her inside. Her cries were swallowed by the sound of tires screeching on the road. Fear consumed her. Hours later, she was tied to a chair in a dark, empty warehouse. Shadows moved around her, voices murmuring. And then she heard one she recognized all too well. Her ex. "Well, well," he said, stepping into the light with a cruel smile. "You thought you could humiliate me. You thought you could kiss another man in front of everyone and walk away." Tears burned her eyes, but she glared at him. "You betrayed me first." His smile twisted. "That doesn't matter. What matters is you're going to pay. And when he comes to save you, he'll pay too." Arya's chest tightened. They weren't just after her. They wanted the stranger. Hours passed like minutes. Then, suddenly, the air shifted. The doors of the warehouse burst open with a crash. Men shouted. Guns were raised. Chaos erupted. And in the center of it all, he appeared. The stranger. His eyes locked on Arya immediately, sharp and fierce. Without hesitation, he moved through the fight like a storm, his men taking down enemies one by one. Arya's heart pounded as he reached her, untying the ropes with quick, rough hands. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, tears spilling freely now. "Why did you come?" His jaw clenched. "Because you're mine to protect." Before she could reply, her ex appeared, holding a gun. His voice cracked with fury. "If I can't have her, no one can." Time slowed. Arya's scream filled the air. The gun fired. But in that moment, the stranger moved. The bullet never touched her. Instead, it struck him. Arya fell to her knees beside him, her hands trembling as she pressed against the wound. "No, no, stay with me. Please." His breath was shallow, his eyes half closed, but he still managed a faint smile. "I told you, my world is dangerous." "Don't talk like that," she sobbed. "You can't leave me. Not now." He lifted a hand weakly, brushing away her tears. "The night you kissed me, I thought it was a curse. But it was a gift. You reminded me I still had a heart." Her tears fell harder, her voice breaking. "Don't you dare die. I need you." For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Then his eyes locked on hers, filled with something she had never seen before, peace. "Arya," he whispered. "You were never my weakness. You were my strength." And then his hand fell still. The sound of sirens echoed in the distance. His men dragged her ex away, his screams fading into the night. But Arya didn't care. All she could see was the man who had changed her life lying in her arms. The man who had been a stranger, then a protector, then something far more. She held him tightly, her sobs lost in the night, her heart breaking once more. But this time, it wasn't revenge that burned inside her. It was love. A love born from pain, sealed with a kiss, and tested in fire. That night, the heartbroken girl learned the truth. Sometimes, the most unexpected bond is also the most costly. And sometimes, a kiss really does change everything.